Well, welcome to all of our attendees, to our panelists and our attendees. Although we can't see you, you can talk to us through the Q&A feature on your toolbar. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rochelle Williams. I'm the founder and co-chair of Blue CD2 New Mexico. Thank you so much for joining us to hear from this amazing panel of professionals who are right in the trenches of the tough and heartbreaking battle to preserve our liberties and deliver abortion care to women in increasingly desperate need of it as red states implement draconian and dangerous laws to punish and control women, trample individual rights, codify forced birth no matter the cost, and take aim at contraception and other liberties protected under the 14th Amendment. Blue CD2 was formed out of an immense, swirling remove of vet energy after the 2020 midterms when MAGA darling Yvette Herrell defeated Democrat Xochitl Torres Small. We worked hard to flip the seat to Gabe in 2022, and we're working even harder and smarter to make sure Gabe can hold this seat. This is critical for two reasons. One, holding CD2 makes it much more likely that the House will flip back to Democrats in November. Two, Yvette Herrell is Project 2025's handmaiden, a nightmare candidate who says she wishes New Mexico had banned all abortions. We're going to show you how Blue CD2 New Mexico helped elect Gabe in 2022, talk about Gabe's platform on reproductive freedom, and then show you what we're doing this cycle to make sure he can hold this seat. We'll space these short presentations through the hour, along with a few fundraising pauses to make sure we have the money to complete our ambitious Get Out the Vote drive and get hard-to-reach voters to the polls. In two 20-minute segments, our distinguished panelists will be discussing questions submitted to them beforehand, and we'll have a 10-minute Q&A from the audience at the end. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A feature. It's a little green box on your toolbar. Because this is a webinar, we don't have the chat feature open. So first I want to introduce our panelists, and I'm so thrilled and grateful and excited that they're all here. Jessica Piper is the Executive Director of Blue Missouri. I know her as a dirt road Democrat. Jess is a fierce advocate for rural communities, public schools, and reproductive rights. She was an American literature teacher for 16 years and decided to run for a seat in Missouri State House in 2022. Although she lost that race, she continues her activism through Blue Missouri. Jess is also a TikTok sensation. I recommend looking her up, and the author of the Substack, The View from Rural Missouri. We're joined by Shannon Brewer, who's the Executive Director of Las Cruces Women's Health Organization. Shannon worked nearly half her life at what became Mississippi's last abortion clinic, whose lawsuit against the statewide ban at 15 weeks prompted the U.S. Supreme Court's monumental decision overturning Roe versus Wade. As a result, her clinic closed its doors for good, and she moved it to Las Cruces because of its proximity to Texas and lack of abortion care. Her clinic has now been up and running for 2 years. Thanks so much for joining us, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Dr. Eve Espy's long and distinguished career dedicated to improving women's health care in New Mexico includes directing projects to reduce maternal mortality and to implement postpartum long-acting reversible contraception in hospitals. The main focus of her clinical practice is family planning. Dr. Espy has published numerous articles on contraception, abortion, and medical education. In 2015, she addressed the United Nations on intimate partner violence against Native American women. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Espy. And Sue Steketee is the former Director of Surgery for Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains. Sue has been involved in abortion care for over 25 years. She was trained as a teacher and taught for 10 years. In 1989, she became the Executive Director of the nonprofit Abortion and Pregnancy Testing Clinic. After arson attacks, APT merged with Planned Parenthood, and Sue worked for 20 years in various positions at Planned Parenthood. We're also fortunate to be joined by Gabby Morellis, who's with the Amarillo Reproductive Freedom Alliance, and we'll hear from her during our question period. So I'm going to turn it over now to our co-chair, Constance Massell, who'll be telling the remarkable story of how Blue CD2 New Mexico had a big impact on Gabe's 2022 win, and then we'll hear from our panelists.
Thank you, Rochelle. Let me get this going here. Reproductive freedom and reproductive rights is one of the most important issues of this election cycle. I'm looking forward to hearing from our panel and how sending it back to the states has affected New Mexico and the red states which surround it. I want to talk to you a little bit about us, Blue CD2 New Mexico. We're an all-volunteer federal PAC, and we're focused just on New Mexico Congressional District 2, which makes us pretty unique. There are no groups that we're aware of that just focus on a congressional district. This district is also one of the largest in the nation. It's bigger than Pennsylvania, and it's also rural. And since the 1980s, the district has only had 3 Democratic representatives of 1 term each. That's 6 years out of approximately 45. So our mission is to keep Democrat Dave Vasquez as New Mexico's CD2 representative for a 2nd term, and to support Democrats up and down the ballot in this red district. We specialize in reaching reluctant voters who are registered Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents who are between the ages of 18 and 45 and did not vote in the last 2 elections. They're predominantly Hispanic, and data suggests that they will be crucial in the coming election. We target these people using a number of different approaches, including data analytics. We can find the people we need to touch. We use a variety of messaging tools, repeated touching, to amplify the benefits of electing Democrats. And finally, the messaging we use is carefully crafted. It's national and it's tested. And we know that it motivates the base and persuades the middle and counters the Republican narrative. So this is our get out the vote strategy in a nutshell. And our strategy basically is to keep touching new and low frequency voters, because it's a well-known thing in marketing that you need to talk to somebody at least 5 times before they even realize that you exist. So we do this by a number of different tactics. We send multiple postcards to these voters. We do social media. We do social media advertising, and we use influencers. We have a phenomenal website. We use billboards because it's a rural district and those are tangible. We use texting. We use programmatic advertising, which is a means of reaching people online. If you go onto a gaming site or you want to look up a recipe, you would probably see an ad from us if you happen to live in the district where we are aiming for. Because what we're trying to do is reach these voters where they are, and they're not paying much attention to what's going on with politics. What kind of results do we get during using this kind of strategy? Well, in 2022, Blue CD2 New Mexico motivated almost 7,000 non-voters in CD2 to vote. And Gabe Vasquez won by just 1,346 votes. So we really feel we helped to bring about this outcome. But we have some repercussions for 2022. Thanks to our success, Republicans have made this seat one of their top 5 targets. And we discovered that Elon Musk is now pouring many dollars into Republican efforts to unseat Gabe. So your donations tonight will help us make sure that doesn't happen. We promise a highly effective use of your dollars. We're a group of professionals who volunteer. And for that reason, it costs us to get $8 to get a elected voter to the polls and $18 to register one. According to Focus for Democracy, which measures these things, the average cost is $200 to $400 per voter. So why to give to us? We're a federal independent expenditure PAC. Unlike candidates, we can accept unlimited donations. So if you've already given the maximum allowable to Gabe, you can still give to us. Plus, we go after voters Gabe just doesn't have the bandwidth to reach. And we're all volunteer. Your entire gift goes to electing Gabe. Our interactive website is our ninja force. We like to say it educates because it makes people aware of the good things that are happening in their district due to democratic actions. It motivates. We bring issues to people that they're concerned about and talk about them. And it informs. It tells you how to vote, where to vote, uh, who's on your ballot, um, and where you might even go to vote. But I could talk about our website all night, but I think it'd be better that you go and check it out for yourself. And it's easy to remember. It's just bluecd2nm.com. And now, Rochelle, our panelist.
So I'd like to just start this off by asking some general questions. We don't you all are on the front lines here. We don't see what is happening to these women who are so compromised by these egregious laws in red states, but you do. You have eyes on them. So please tell us about them. How are New Mexicans who seek abortion care being affected by the influx of patients from other states? Is there enough capacity to meet everyone's needs? Are any of your patients, local or out of state, facing risky delays or backlogged services? And I'll let Shannon and Dr. Espy start on that. And the other panelists are welcome to jump in.
And they're both muted.
Well, we don't have patients that are backlogged here, because right now we're seeing patients 5 to 6 days a week. We're doing medicals either 5 or 6 days a week, and surgicals. We try to do surgicals 1 to 2 days a week, if possible. So we don't have many backlogs, but I do hear a lot of patients, saying that they are backlogged at other clinics that may go further than we do here. So I know that that's probably an issue, and a bigger issue I think is more about, like, the patients are coming from out of state, and so they only have limited time to travel and to be off work or to be away from their children and stuff like that. So that I think that has been, from what I'm hearing from patients, that's been a bigger issue, and the financial restraints that are going on as far as the travel and all of the fees that go along with that. So I don't know what Dr. Espy has been going through, but that's what we've been hearing on our end.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree with Shannon. We're seeing, now that we've increased our capacity a lot in both in Albuquerque and in other parts of the state, we are no longer seeing a backlog. We certainly have in the past, and we have had issues in the past making sure that we are prioritizing New Mexico patients, which we still try to do. Even though we have capacity, we have the New Mexico Abortion Providers Network, which is generously funded by an anonymous donor who is helping us all get together as a group. And so we have a chat where we can help arrange clinic times for patients, seeing who's got availability for different kinds of complex cases. And I'll just also say that the biggest delays that we're seeing are not our capacity. They're these terrible restrictions that are imposed on our patients. So the travel, the lodging, the fear, the confusion about what the laws mean are all of the factors that are causing patients to have still very dangerous delays in care, some of which are inconvenient, force women to continue a pregnancy, but many of which are actually quite dangerous to their health.
Can you illustrate, is there any, can you share with us any kind of a story that would illustrate that situation?
Yeah, I mean, so I think all of us that provide second trimester care have now have been in this scenario where just recently I got a call from a high-risk pregnancy specialist out of state with PPROM. PPROM is something that nobody used to know what that meant. Basically, it means when the bag of waters ruptures spontaneously early in pregnancy. Um, but where there is still a heartbeat. And, when somebody is 5 months or 6 months pregnant and their bag of waters breaks, we know that they're at very high risk of infection. And the standard of care is to offer those patients abortion care. That is one of the big things that changed, and many of the lawsuits that you've probably heard about coming from Texas are women who are suing because they were not allowed to proceed with abortion care because there was still cardiac motion in the fetus. We just had a patient like that. She had been in the hospital for 2 weeks, just being observed because she was not considered to be sick enough to have an abortion, even though it was completely futile for her to continue the pregnancy. She tried to get through to us through their hospital internet, and all of the sites for abortion care in New Mexico were blocked. So she figured that out, was able to through her own data, was able to get through to us. Her doctors told her she shouldn't transfer because of the risk of infection, but they actually wouldn't provide her with care because there was still cardiac motion. So she got in a car with her partner and drove 6 hours to come see us in New Mexico to get the care that she needed. And she literally came sort of just in time. It was an emergency procedure on our part because of the how advanced her infection was.
It's shocking. I mean, it's just shocking that this is where we are now. Both of the abortion ban related deaths in the news recently coming out of Georgia are related to a simple, ordinary medical procedure called a D&C, which used to be standard of care for any retained fetal tissue. And now it's not, now it's become illegal in most of these red states. So I was going to ask the question, have you had any patients like that? But this sounds like a situation where it was very close to that. When a D&C is what she needed, or maybe this was a more complex situation. But are you seeing people with retained fetal tissue from partial miscarriages, partial abortions, who need a D&C and can't get it?
We do. And one of the ironic things is that we actually see a lot of patients in Albuquerque, and I don't know if you're seeing this too, Shannon, patients that have a miscarriage that their doctors either have not diagnosed or they're too afraid to go to a doctor because they're afraid that they might be accused of having an abortion or having self-managed an abortion. So we are actually doing quite a few D&Cs for patients who have miscarriage, or we have patients who are diagnosed, who have saved up a lot of money to have an abortion. They've waited 10 weeks to get the resources they need for childcare, for lodging, for transportation. They come here and we diagnose them with a miscarriage, and we tell them you could get this, in Texas covered by your insurance, but they won't go back because they've been treated so disrespectfully, and as if they're criminals. So we are definitely seeing the situation that you're talking about. And we very promptly take care of those patients and provide the care they need. And in Georgia, they should as well. It's,
Yeah.
that's what's so sad, is that people are so afraid of being prosecuted or having a lawsuit, against them, that they won't do this very basic, often life-saving care.
Yeah, they're actually, like, patients that are coming here, they're asking us, they still think they're going to get prosecuted. They are deathly afraid. They don't want anybody to know. They still think that even if they come here, that they're going to get prosecuted because they live in Texas. This is still getting asked of us every day when they're making appointments.
I'm hoping that we can spend the second segment with our panelists looking at some possible solutions. I mean, it's really important to know what is happening on the ground here, and I would like to know how many abortion clinics New Mexico has, and then how many of the patients you're serving come from Texas or Arizona or some other state. How many of them are New Mexicans that you're seeing?
So we know that in calendar year 2023, about 70% of our patients that received abortion care in New Mexico are from Texas. 70% out of state, but the vast majority of those from Texas.
And how many clinics does New Mexico have?
Now, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about in Albuquerque. I know there's here it's just me and the Planned Parenthood. I'm not sure in Albuquerque because every other week somebody tells me there's another one, so I'm not sure. I'm not familiar. Sue may know, so I'm not sure about that one. But since I've been here in 2022, actually, when we first came, the first year, I can tell you about 97% of our patients were Texas. Which we kind of we kind of expected, and which is why we kind of wanted to be in this area, because we knew that Albuquerque had several clinics that were already there that were taking care of a lot of the New Mexico patients at that time, and so much had happened with Texas, and we knew that Texas was such a big area, and we wanted to be in an area that could service a lot of the Texas patients also. So that was one of the reasons why we picked Las Cruces. And so the first year it was, I may have seen, I literally can say maybe 10 New Mexico patients the whole year. And this past year, still about 85% is still Texas. And we get a few Arizona, we get more New Mexico now than we were, about 10% now.
I mean,
I know
Sanford,
that,
I think
sorry,
you
go ahead.
I think you have more because of, just like you said, Shannon, because of your location.
Correct.
In Albuquerque right now, we have 5 clinics that are currently providing care, and then there are other places across the state that are providing some abortion care. For example, in Gallup, there's the Gallup Community Health Clinic is providing the care. Las Cruces, and I believe in Santa Fe has access to medication abortion. So the capacity has increased throughout the state, and I really admire those brave providers in Gallup that are providing that care. Very motivated.
Is Santa Teresa, are they still seeing patients there?
I
hadn't heard.
Yeah, I think that's very often on.
Okay.
And I understand we have a new facility that just broke ground thanks to funding from our governor directed this way.
Correct.
And how, I mean, is that going to increase capacity a lot? Do we know about it?
Yes, it will increase capacity. That's a collaboration between the university, Planned Parenthood, Bold Futures, and Strong Families. Bold Futures is a reproductive justice organization that's located in Las Cruces, and Strong Families. So it's a unique model that blends, academic, Planned Parenthood, and then 2 reproductive justice organizations that will have a community advisory board and provide, comprehensive sexual health. So we're super excited about that, and hope that we'll be opening in about a year and a half.
You're going to be there, Dr. Espy?
I am.
That's what it sounded like. That's why I was asking.
I saw this question come through. Can a New Mexico doctor be prosecuted by Texas for providing abortion care? And Dr. Espy answered it. No, we have a shield law that protects New Mexico providers. That's really good to know. Do you want to offer any thoughts about whether New Mexico should try to protect abortion rights in our Constitution?
I mean, I think that's yes. I mean, the short answer would be yes, and I'm sure it's more nuanced than that. And I would invite the advocates to give an opinion on that.
Yeah, I think it's complex. And Sue, do you have thoughts about that?
No, other than yes. I think I don't, I'm not sure, I don't understand, how to make that happen. I don't understand what that,
Well, what you always risk with
process
a
would
ballot
be.
initiative is that it could fail.
Right. I mean, there would be a risk of that, certainly. And I think that the other, and I don't know whether it's more important or easier, I'm not sure, but would be to pass a law that an affirmative law to make abortion legal in New Mexico, as opposed to fixing what they had done is fix the old law that made it a crime. And so, I think that, I don't know whether that's easier than a constitutional amendment or not.
Well, I'm sure we'll be mulling it over a lot in the next couple of years. How are people showing up to support these patients? And what are they needing? What kind of condition do they show up in? And I think Sue could probably address this, and Gabby.
Well, my experience was that, the whole process of being able to have an abortion is much larger than calling up and making an appointment. When I last spoke to you guys, I talked about, arriving to work at 7:30 in the morning, and someone will have driven 6 hours, and they're sleeping in our parking lot. And then, come on in, I'll put on a pot of coffee, we'll get started here. And then, and as soon as they're done, they're going to drive 6 hours back because of childcare issues, work issues. They can't miss another day of work. Or they've come and nobody knows they're here. And so they've told a story about where they're going to be for the day. And they're, in fact, have driven a total of, 10, 12, 14 hours to come have an abortion. And I think the other piece of what we see is that to what ends women will go, and what means in order to not have a pregnancy that they don't want. And I think that's the part that is so much bigger than the procedure itself, or getting an appointment and that part of having an abortion.
Are there groups who are helping to fund what these people need? Where are they? I mean, what kind of support network is there for patients who don't have the resources to travel, to take time off from work, to get childcare, to pay for this?
There's several resources, and I'm sure that Eve has experiences, and Gabby sure knows with what's going on, and Shannon. But the National Network of Abortion Funds that I was involved with for a long time is a organization that supports small small abortion funds all over the country. And we have some in New Mexico, and there's some in other states, and the Texas funds help fund abortions in New Mexico. And so there's several ways to find that out. The clinics will know about some available funds. And, you know, there's the internet and checking the NNAF website and finding where the resources are. Planned Parenthood has money. I think one of the problems is that when Roe was first overturned, fundraising was really, you know, pretty easy. Not easy, but there were, you know, folks were generously giving money. But as the restrictions made it more difficult for women to get abortions, it made it more expensive for them to get abortions, whether it's transportation, lodging, you know, childcare, all of that. And I think that what we know is that some of that money is slowing down a bit. And so the problem is the number of women wanting abortions probably isn't going to go away. How we fund them is going to be, you know, continue to be a problem.
I wasn't minding the time, and we have to break now for our first fundraising pause, but I have a question that has been put in the chat for Jess. Have you, to think about when answering when we come back, have you seen any legislators change their minds? That is, change from being pro-life to pro-choice. If there are any, it's hard to read, sorry. Sally, can you ask your question? I can't read it.
Yes. The question is, have you seen anyone change their mind? Have you seen anyone become open to looking at abortion from a different perspective, especially legislators, but really anyone in Missouri who's kind of switching? And if so, what makes them be open? What makes them change their minds? What is
that thought
works? Yeah.
Hold that thought for 3 minutes while we go over here and do a little fundraising. So we were so fortunate. I want to do a shout out to Marjorie Lucky and her group of donors who helped us get to $8,000 in donations before we even started tonight. And our goal is to raise $15,000 with this fundraiser. So there are links in the chat where you can donate to our Act Blue. You can also mail a check, and John will put that address in the chat as well. And we are also sharing the Amarillo Reproductive Freedom Alliance website, because they can use support too. So please go to their website if you're interested in donating to them. They are really on the front lines here. And if we have an update from our Act Blue Minder about where we are, I'll announce that. We started out at 8,000, and let's see where we are on our donations. Marty? Oh, you're muted, Marty.
Yes, we've had about $4,000 come in the last 20 minutes, and which puts us at $12,000.
You
Yes.
all are amazing.
And I will
Thank
put
you
that
so
in the
much.
chat.
We are so close to fully funding our budget for everything that we have left to do to turn out these, you know, these infrequent voters. Constance?
I just want to say that the chat is now available to everyone, and that is where we're putting the link for our donations. So if you would look at the chat, you can find the link there.
Wonderful. And then I think we should go back to Jess and hear what she's been thinking about this question, and then I'd like to bring Gabby in.
No, no, there has been no Republican legislator in the state of Missouri to change their mind. They've gotten worse. They've become more draconian. Missouri has a total and complete abortion ban with no exemptions for rape or incest. Is there some sort of problem with my mic, or can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, I
If
heard
you're
a
not speaking, please mute.
Yeah, I could hear a little interference, but that's fine. So no. In fact, we have a lawmaker last year who tried to criminalize ectopic pregnancies, and was positive that in ectopic pregnancy, the fertilized egg could be removed and reimplanted. Um, and so, no, we're not seeing this. And this is why I do what I do. Um, I work with Blue Missouri and I fund down ballot candidates. And this is why, because we have to have people in communities that are fighting back against this. In 2022, 40% of our seats were uncontested. So you hear people say all the time, you get what you vote for, right? Sorry, friend, I had no one to vote for. So this is why we work doing this, because we have to have people in red spaces, in rural spaces, because Missouri is 1/3 rural, just like you guys are talking about with your district. We have to have people bringing a democratic message and knocking doors. And when I talk to my rural neighbors about abortion, I know that there are a lot of conservative women who are like, they went too far. That this is too much. We can't live like this. And it's like, well, thanks for coming aboard. I mean, you're late to the party, but let's go, right? And so people, when I talk about abortion access, I always talk about the fact that it's privacy. Why is your state lawmaker in your bedroom and in your doctor's office? What's he got to do with that, right? And that's really important for people in rural areas. That's why we live out here, because we don't want anybody telling us what to do. I don't want an HOA and I don't want an abortion ban. Right? So these are things that in places like mine, we haven't had access to abortion for decades. I live 5 hours from the only clinic that was available in the state of Missouri. It's 5 hours and 15 minutes from my house. So we have had no abortion access. Rural women have been living like this for years. And so it's nice for people to come and say, we've got to do something about it, right? But the good news is this, is that we are opposing more races. I'm funding more races to get people on doors and to talk to their neighbors, right? I would knock a door and there's a cognitive dissonance because I'm supposed to be this wild baby eater, right? And I'm like, no, actually, I taught your kid, right? You remember me. So when we have someone knocking on doors and talking to people, this is how we change things. And in Missouri, we are putting abortion on the ballot. We needed 180,000 signatures. We got 380,000 signatures. We blew the doors off of this thing. I was going to rural communities and people were leaving their Bible groups to come sign this. I had a woman stand up and text and tell her Bible group, remember, go by, she's here with the petition, right? We did that. And then we had a judge named Limbaugh, and yes, he is kin to that Limbaugh, throw our abortion amendment off the ballot and say that they couldn't do it. It went to the Supreme Court. We barely got by 4-3. They said, yes, you can put it on the ballot. But this is the thing, and it's not just Missouri. It's going to happen in every red state because they're figuring out, they're like AI. Let's work on some stuff. It didn't work. Let's change it, right? And in states like Ohio, they said, let's raise the number of people that need to vote for something to change our constitution. That didn't work. People saw through that. So in states like Missouri, they're like, put it on the ballot. See if we care. We're going to unravel it the second we get back into office, right? We can't elect GOP, no Republicans, not one Republican until this is taken care of. And that's the message to go out to people. But right now, we will be the first state to overturn a complete ban. And I'm very certain that we're going to do that. But we still have a fight on our hands once we do that.
Gabby, can you, you're muted. Can you just give us a quick overview of what you're seeing in MRO?
Well, it's kind of the same thing that Jess was saying. So to put a little background on it, we've been working for a year against the Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn Ordinance. So basically, Mark Lee Dixon, who's the pastor, has had like I want to say 62 cities, but each ordinance is just a little bit different, and to close the SB 8 loopholes, basically. So basically, it's a vigilante law that it counts on you to basically snitch on your neighbor and say, hey, I think they went to go get an abortion, and there's no proof. You don't need any proof. It can just be alleged, and it's just a very dangerous. But it's kind of the same thing going with us. With we educated our town. We're very red, very very red where I live. We have a very small group of Democrats. They are there, but very small. And so our chances of winning, we thought, let's, court the city council. Let's just talk to them. Let's see what they think about this. Because he was, coming to the city councilman, 5 guys that, were very pro-life, and he was sure he had it in the bag. Well, I was the cynical person in the group and was like, look at them. Do you really think that we can change their minds? But luckily they didn't listen to me, because they started to talk to them and just go and have coffee with them and say, hey, like, where are you at on this? What are your thoughts on this? Well, I'm pro-life, but, and then we would like show them parts of the ordinance, like, you want this, you want your privacy taken away, because this is going to affect that. This is going to affect a lot of freedoms that we have. We really pushed on that, like those conservative values. And even for our campaigning, we made sure to have our materials look very, conservative, patriotic, American flag, that kind of stuff. But they voted no. They voted no, 4-1. And so because of that, there was a committee formed to basically push this to the ballot. They didn't want it to go to the ballot. They wanted the council to choose, but they chose not to. So it's going to be on the ballot November 5th. And basically that's why we're trying to hurry up and raise funds to try and defeat this. But I think we have a pretty good chance.
That's really wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And this is all so disorienting and interesting, and there's so much of it. I've run off track on our schedule. So again, I need to hand it over to Constance to show a few slides about Gabe and the rest of our program, and then we'll return to the panelists and we'll open it up. And there's some really important questions in here.
Thank you, Rochelle. Let me get this open again. It's a little, there we go. Okay. Well, Gabe Vasquez is all in on reproductive freedom, and I particularly love this quote of his. It's not about whether we're pro-choice or pro-life. It's about trusting the people we love to make those decisions for themselves. And Gabe has a strong commitment to reproductive freedom. He's a proud co-sponsor of the Women's Health Protection Act, which if it's passed will codify Roe versus Wade. And additionally, Gabe has led numerous efforts to safeguard reproductive health care for military service members, in contrast to his opponent, Yvette Harrell, who is serious bad news. When she was in Congress, she voted against the right to use contraception, against the right to travel across state lines for an abortion. That's not rather appropriate. Against making Roe versus Wade the law of the land. And she co-sponsored something called the Fetal Personhood Bill, which would essentially mean that a cluster of fertilized cells have the same rights as adult women. So we really need to keep Gabe in Congress, and our 2024 goal is to double our 2022 results, because of course that was very, very tight, and we don't want it to be so tight again. We really want to be able to be comfortable that we have a congressman that's going to stick with us for a while and help get some of these things through Congress that we so desperately need. Already this year, we've done 2 campaigns. We did a good news campaign in the spring and a voter registration campaign in the summer. And now we're at the get out the vote phase. And in the spring, what we did an awareness campaign to the infrequent voters regarding benefits the district receives from Democratic initiatives. And if you go on our website, bluecd2nm.com, you will find on the homepage a map. And it's a map of New Mexico. And if you click on one of the counties in the district, it will take you to a subpage and it will tell you all the different things that have happened in that particular county, the result of the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructural Act, and much, much more. In the summer, we went after a different group of people. We went after people who were not registered to vote, and were unregistered likely Democrats and independents. And we pitched this with the idea of it's your future. You have to decide, or somebody will decide for you. But if you're not registered to vote and you don't vote, then somebody else is going to do it for you. And now, as I said, we're in the get out the vote phase, but we're actually doing two campaigns. Our first campaign is to those people that we have been successful with in the past, those infrequent voters. But this year, instead of going after 20,000 people, we're going after 40,000, with the goal of getting 12,000 of them to the polls. The second campaign, we're aiming at non-mega Republicans and independents who are not too excited about what Project 2025 holds for us all. And we found about 8,000 of those in the district, and we are creating a couple of postcards going to them. And in this case, of course, we don't want to insult them or say that we think that Republicans are out of their minds. So instead, we have put it into a different frame. We ask people to imagine what it would be like if wealthy got more tax cuts, if there wasn't any overtime pay, if the government monitored pregnancies, if there wasn't coverage for pre-existing conditions. And the whole idea is, of course, to get them to turn the card over and ask, how would that Project 2025 affect you? It has a link to the website. And we also give permission. It's okay to vote for Democrats this year. So some of the other materials we've created, these are the main Get Out the Vote postcards. And the first one is already out, and it is to help people, bring people to our website where we can tell them what their ballot would look like, who they might vote for, and background about them, how to register, where they can vote, all those different things are on our website. And secondly, we're going to be sending out 2 further cards on our intrepid postcard team. We have over 400 people who together have already sent out something on the order of 440,000 postcards during this year, who are going to write in and send these last 2 cards. First one, of course, is to tell people 5 reasons why to vote for Gabe. Who is he? What about him? You can learn all about him on our website. And then finally, of course, to urge people to vote. In addition to that, we have put up 13 billboards all over the district. And 3 of them are electronic billboards, like the ones you see up in the upper left-hand corner. And there's a lot of Vote for Gabe billboards up as well. But we also, again, are working with this group, working to influence the persuadable group with billboards aimed at them and giving them permission to vote for Democrats. Finally, I'd like to also show you what a programmatic ad actually looks like. These are ones we did this summer to get people to register to vote. And we haven't yet had an opportunity to find out how influential we actually were, because we don't have the information yet from the Secretary of State. But we do know that our website traffic suddenly went up almost 5.5 times while we were running the ads. And additionally, we do social media and influencers. And we create a lot of original content, a lot. And we run it on all our multiple accounts. Plus, we do some paid advertising on social media because we can pinpoint our audience by zip code. And additionally, we place advertising on college campuses using Facebook and Instagram. And we have a social media influencer named Jenny Buckley, who resides in the district and has over 58,000 followers. So you can make a difference. CD2 is critical to flipping the House. We must hold this seat. So right here and right now is when your dollars can make the most difference. Thank you.
So I'd like to start with this question that is about an issue that really I found quite troubling, and it's the downstream effect of these laws on the next generation of medical professionals that we're training. How are they being trained in states that have banned these procedures? How do they get training? And the question is actually, do we have adequate resources to train abortion providers?
I mean, I'll just say the answer to that is no. You know, if you think about just OBGYN residents, and you know, they're not the only ones that can provide abortion care. Advanced practice clinicians can, family medicine physicians can. But if you just look at OBGYNs, almost half train in states that either have complete bans or near total bans. And so although there have been efforts to, you know, get those residents out to be able to train in other places, there are so many logistical and legal barriers, as well as just financial. It's extremely costly to try to ship residents from one state to another, not to mention the fact that those states are also, you know, putting up as many barriers as they can to prevent those residents from coming to train. So although, you know, our the organization that accredits OBGYN residency programs still requires that abortion training be offered as part of the regular curriculum, there's simply no logistical way for those programs to actually comply. So this is a looming crisis, I think, for us. And it's not just training abortion providers. What I worry about is many of the people who understand the personal and public health and societal impacts of legal abortion are not going to be teaching the nursing students, the medical students, the pharmacy students, and so we're going to lose, you know, the advocates who are there to help people understand why it's so important to vote on this issue.
So in Missouri, there was a study and it said that we have 25% less residents coming to our state to practice. And let me just say something. People always associate that with people who need abortions. I'm past that point in my life. I can't get an OBGYN to give me a pap smear because we are losing those doctors.
That's what I was fixing to ask. That's what I was going to ask you, Jess, because you're in a rural area. That's what I've been hearing about, like in different states, that all the doctors are leaving and people can't get they can't get an OBGYN to just for regular health care.
No, I had to drive an hour and 15 minutes to deliver my daughter. There are people, we have huge maternity care deserts in a place that banned abortion, right? Not even including child care deserts and that sort of thing. But I'll tell you, what Dr. Espy was talking about, you know, the training, I am on an email list for my Republican senators. They sent out an email to their constituents and to pastors across the state saying that if Missouri passes the abortion ban, children will be able to access abortions from their school nurses, that dental assistants will be performing abortions. And it sounds insane, right? You have to suspend reality. But I tell you this, if your pastor says that to you, you might be able to suspend reality. So we're dealing with stuff that is beyond the realm of insanity. But I have people that are eating it up because their pastor told them, because they heard it from Mike Moon, who is a senator who also advocates for child marriage. That's what we're dealing with.
So
I mean, I could go on, but
how do you pick your jaw up off the floor after that? Many of the things I'm seeing are comments rather than questions. I don't understand why the AMA and ACOG are silent on this situation, especially because doctors' first responsibility is to do no harm. There's one. But I do want to move us into, before we close, talking about some solutions. And I love the solutions that Jess is always talking about. I mean, the words that occur to me are trifecta, trifecta, trifecta. But Jess it has a very practical approach to how we get to you know, solutions in in the red states. First, we have to get a trifecta of it. Yeah.
There's a question in the comments that I get all the time. Why do you stay in Missouri? Because it's my state too. Because it's not financially, I'm not financially able to pick up and move because I got 5 kids and 4 grandkids, because it's my state too. And I'm not leaving. I'm going to be a thorn in their side until something else changes. And if I left, that, you know what they're doing in states like mine? They're rolling over me to get to you. They're rolling over Missouri so they can head to Arizona and take care of you, right? We can't pick up and move. We have to fight where we are. And that's why I do this, right? I can't leave. And I know, friends, you didn't mean anything by it, but that's why I can't go.
Bravo. You know, bravo. Like I feel like that's who's really doing the great work. Is we can't drive all of the advocates, you know, out of the red states. We've got to support you.
And running everywhere, not letting any Republicans run unopposed. I mean, that really has to become the rallying cry for the Democratic Party. I mean, we Jess, you can talk about that better than I can, so please.
It is, and it's hard. It's hard to tell people, I'd like you to give to a race you know is not going to flip. I'd like you to give to a candidate you know is going to lose, but it's the only way we build a bench. It's the only way we claw our way back to democracy. And in states like Missouri, I'm going to tell you this, the Republicans have done everything they can do. They have no more electorate they can reach out to, but we do. We have people who are coming back, right? So we run everywhere. You might beat me, but I'm going to make you work for it. You might beat me, but you're going to have to show up to your community and talk at a forum and go to a debate and talk to voters and knock on doors and raise money. You might beat me, but you're going to work for it. And if we did that in every single district, in every single state, we would win. There would be nothing left for them, right? So we run everywhere. We contest every race.
And that's what we're all about here. I mean, our primary mission is to reelect Gabe, but that secondary mission right under that is to support Democrats up and down the ballot. And we are putting your money where our mouth is. So we have a great candidate here in Otero County, Ashley Myers, who's running against a MAGA, John Block, and we are figuring out ways to support her. We are a federal PAC, but we're going to do everything we can to support her in her race, and other Democrats running in this district who are not well supported or whose races are, you know, at risk. So I think we're just about out of time. Can we get an update on our fundraising? And boy, I wish we had another hour for you all to keep talking to us. We didn't get to hear enough.
Right. Okay, we not much more came in, about another $125. So we're
okay.
a little over 12,000, which is fantastic.
Yes, it is.
And the links are still in the chat, so you still have a chance, even though we're at the end of the hour, and you could copy them and donate tomorrow or the day after that. We take it all whenever it comes. But thank you all for what you have contributed tonight and for helping us support this incredible panel and Blue City too.
And Shannon, do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to share with us? We'll just go through each of the panelists and
while
no,
all the rest of you continue to donate.
No, not really. It was nice meeting all of you guys. I like you, Jess. I like you a lot. Whatever you ran for, when you say you ran, you should have won, girl. You should have won. Telling you now, I would have voted for you, I swear. But yeah, it was nice meeting all you guys, and I look forward to working with all of you in the future.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And we are all in this together. It's not like red states, blue states. Like Jess says, the red state policies are bleeding all over the blue states. We're in this together.
Yes.
Dr. Espy?
Yeah, I just like to say thank you. And you know, anytime I start feeling like I'm losing a little bit of hope, and I am in a community of people like this, it just, you know, that we can't give up. We got to keep fighting. I think, you know, Jess and Shannon, you two just are incredible examples of people who will not be, put down and are just going to keep up the fight. So thanks to all of you. And of course you, Gabby, too. Thank you for being in Amarillo, because you're also in one of those really challenging places. Yeah.
And Sue, do you have some final comments? You're muted.
I just want to echo what everyone else has been saying, and it's a remarkable group, and you know, it just gives one some hope that we can you know, turn it around and be on the right side. I've always thought that what is just and right will win. I get knocked down a fair amount, but I still believe that's true.
We have a question in the chat here. How can we support Gabby's work? And we do have a link to their website. John, I'm wondering if you could post that in the chat again. And then let's hear final words from Gabby.
Sally put it in. It's
Okay,
there.
great.
Support Gabby's work here.
Okay. And Gabby, do you have any final thoughts?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I am absolutely honored to even be able to talk with y'all. Y'all are all doing important and amazing work, and just keep an eye on Amarillo and see what comes out of it. I mean, who knows what will come out of it, but I'm very positive that this is going to be a good thing for us and for our community.
And thank you for your
yeah,
work.
thank you.
Okay, did I miss anybody? Jess, send us home inspired.
Well, I don't know if you guys know this. I was a teacher for a long time, and I also coach cheer and dance, so I can do a pep rally. I just want all of you to know how special you are and how you're coming together and linking arms and saying, this will not stand. We're going to give women the care they need. We're going to take care of people like they should be taken care of, like Shannon said, with respect, right? And so this is how we do it. And I'm so glad to be in this room. And I know this is a little off topic, but there is someone in this room who has thought about running for office. And I hope that I'm telling you, it's you. I'm talking to you right now. You should do it. Women especially have to be asked many times, but if you're thinking about it, you should do it. From school board to state rep to senator to whatever it is, I hope that you'll do this, because this is how we make change, and this is how we come back to democracy. And I appreciate every single one of you for doing the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you all again, and I just feel so honored to be hurting, just holding the space and hurting. Hope to see you all again. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.